It is very good to be with all of you this evening as we continue our opening slowly but surely. Just a few housekeeping things. Most of you I saw when I greeted you last week were here last week at the 5:15, but for those of you who were not, just a kind of a little precursor, a little preview as to what will happen during communion. Folks that are sitting on this side of the church will come to me, or in this little blue box over here, receive communion. As you approach, there is a hand sanitizer. You're welcome to use that on that stand. And then approach, and then extend your hand out. I'll place communion in your hand. If you would step aside, remove one loop of your mask, receive communion, put your mask back on, and then go back to your seat. Likewise, with the folks that are sitting on this side of the church, Terry will be the Eucharistic minister on that side, and same thing as a hand sanitizer you're more than welcome to use on the stand, and likewise on that side going around the baptismal font and around the side and returning to your pews. The ushers will be there to help you guide that. As with everything, things have changed. When you first walked into the church, it's not as it once was before March. Everything has changed. Even the way that we order a pizza has changed and all of that good stuff. But nonetheless, we work nonetheless. My dear friends, the scriptures for today are really full of the notion of nourishment on this solemnity of Corpus Christi, the body and blood of Christ. For it was Jesus' first-hand listeners who had also often heard of God's gift of wisdom, which would nourish the people. In fact, they looked often back to Moses' gift of bread, and they linked it with the gift of the law, the supreme wisdom which gave life to those who lived by it. The notion of a bread which gives life really was not new to the disciples and to the Jewish people. But Jesus really shatters all previous ideas by claiming that the bread which he was about to give them was not wisdom, but his flesh. Even more outrageously, he claimed that this bread was not just for the people of the law, but for the life of the world. Little wonder that they argued over such an outrageous idea, a man who gives his flesh to eat. Jesus' answer to their puzzlement points beyond the immediate discussion. Jesus speaks to them about eating the flesh and drinking the blood of the Son of Man. The Son of Man is the one who must be lifted up on a cross, for it is only through the piercing and breaking apart of a body that flesh can be had and that blood will be spilt. And so it will be with Jesus. There is only one true bread and drink, which brings a life that ordinary food can never provide, and it comes from Jesus crucified. And so here we are at the heart of the mystery of the Eucharist. The gospel urges us to stop and to meditate what it is that Christ gives us at the celebration of the Eucharist, his very body and blood. It is no wonder that we crave Jesus' body and blood when we cannot have it. What a total gift of self, awesome in the truest sense. Jesus not only talked about God, he showed God to us through his loving gift of himself. As he said, "When I am lifted up on a cross, then I will draw everyone to myself." How right the evangelist was when he closed the account of the crucifixion of Jesus with the words, they shall gaze upon him whom they pierced. For in the Eucharist, we see love. The life-giving power of the Eucharist does not simply come from the fact that we eat and drink. It comes from the challenging presence of a loving God made available to us in a body broken and blood spilt because of that love. When St. Paul wrote to the Corinthians about their celebration of the Eucharist, he reminded them, "Until the Lord comes, therefore, you are preaching his death." As Jesus shows his love for us in his body broken and his blood spilt, so we are asked to do the same. Go, the Mass is ended means go now and do likewise, because you are proclaiming the Lord's death. Eucharist is not only worship, it is also a way of life. That is why we are called a Eucharistic people. And so, may we truly, authentically live that life as a Eucharistic people.